This is Channel 10 Nelson, your community access television. Programming on this channel is made by local volunteers. If you would like to be a part of your community television, please call 354-4200 or write to Shaw Cable, 613 Ward Street, Nelson, B1L1T2.
We're to our last speaker for today, and to introduce the last speaker, I'm going to call upon Allan Auringer, a member of the Conference Organizing Committee. Al?
Thank you. Well, it's nice to see you all out this evening. You've had a long day, and it takes a lot of commitment to come out in the evening again. But I think you're in for a special treat. Mr. Travers has a special presentation for us. It's not just a technical presentation, but something a little bit more poetic and spiritual. Mr. Travers has been involved in forestry for quite a number of years now. He has worked both in with government and with industry. He's even worked in the Forest Service up in the Northwest Territories by the Arctic Circle, so he's had quite a range of experiences. So I'd like you to welcome, if you would, Mr. Travers.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and I'm delighted to be here to talk to so many of this evening. Your theme, of course, is to get high on nature, and I'm hoping to be able to give you some new meanings for that, and in the way we think about trees and so on. And this, of course, will not be talking about trees the way I usually do in terms of numbers and so on, but this is going to be talking about some of the other ways we think of trees and what they mean to us. They give us shade. They provide us with beauty. They provide us with the air we breathe, and perhaps they can even save the environment. Many people have thought deeply about trees and the way they influence their lives. Annie Diller, in the book Pilgrim and at Tinker Creek, wrote, "Trees seem to do their feats so effortlessly. Every year, a given tree creates absolutely from scratch 99% of its living parts. Water lifting up tree trunks can climb 150 feet an hour. In full summer, a tree can and does heave a ton of water every day. A tree stands there accumulating deadwood, mute and rigid as an obelisk, but secretly it seethes, it splits, sucks, and stretches. It heaves up tons and hurls them out in green-fringed fling." Ivan Turgenev from Russia says, "The deep, unchanging pine forest keeps sullen silence or is filled with a dull roar, and at the sight of it sinks into man's heart more deeply, more irresistibly, the sense of his own nothingness." And in the book, The Tree by John Fowles, he writes, "If I cherish trees beyond all personal need, it is because of their natural correspondence with the greener, more mysterious processes of mind, and because they also seem to me the best, most revealing messengers to us from all nature, the nearest its heart." Okay, am I blasting you out of the room? Okay, I'll try that. Trees can provide us with wisdom and insight. Wisdom has been defined as the ability to see the miraculous in the ordinary. I am going to share with you this evening some of the finest wisdom I know. In our culture, trees have been seen as a symbol. What is a symbol? It's something you can see that reminds you of something that you can't see. In our imagination, trees have been seen to unite heaven, earth, and the mysterious places below. In other words, trees have many levels of meaning. And this I will spend a little bit of time explaining what I mean. If I say, go jump in a lake, do I really mean go jump in a lake? No, I don't. If you told a computer to do that, it might get up and walk down to Kootenay Lake, but I don't really mean that. Or if I was to say, go fly a kite, I really mean something at a different level. And of course, we have used these multiple levels of meaning throughout our lives in many ways, in symbolic ways. There, of course, is the tree of life, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We have maypoles. The native cultures have totem poles. They are ways of uniting us between ourselves and nature. And one of the things that we people of a European heritage have is that I think in many ways we've been separated from nature. I recall hearing someone talking about a visit that they had to one of the African continents when they were talking about this problem of alienation of people from nature, and some of the native people were present. And it wasn't too long before the conversation basically ran into some problems, because the native people could not understand what was meant to be alone and separated. They have no concept for that in their culture. In other words, they see themselves as part of the environment, and that, I think, is something that we can learn from them. So let's get into the slides. Let's go back, way back, billions of years, and do some fast forward into the present time. Think in terms of the whole universe. Robert Terry Weston wrote the following poem, and I'll have many poems to read to you in the next little while. He talked about out of the stars. Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come. Starlight and sunlight, mingling through time and through space. Out of the stars have we come. Up from time, out of the stars have we come. Time out of time, before time, in the vastness of space, earth spun to orbit the sun. Earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas. Earth warmed by sun, lit by sunlight, this is our home, out of the stars have we come. Mystery hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery riding from rocks in the storm and the sea. Out of the stars, rising from rocks in the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose light. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns. Out of the sea, up from darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly, out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Life up from sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. Life up from sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain. Life from within, giving birth, rose to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon life rose to love. This is the marvel of man, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart, cry wonder, sing that we live. This is, of course, the view of the Earth from space. In the late 60s, an astronaut by the name of Rusty Schweickart happened to be up in space circling the Earth, and something went wrong as he was outside his capsule, and instead of being busy fiddling with switches and so on, he had a mysterious experience. And this is what he wrote after he came back. And a little later on, your friends go out to the moon, and he looks back and sees the Earth, not as something big, where he can see the beautiful details, but now he sees the Earth as a small thing out there. And the contrast between that bright blue and white Christmas tree ornament and the black sky, that infinite universe really comes through, and the size of it and the significance of it. It is so small and so fragile and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can blot it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and death and birth and love, tears, joys, games, all of it on that little spot out there that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize from that perspective that you've changed, that there's something new out there, that the relationship is no longer what it was. We heard this morning from Dr. Cummins the idea of Gaia, the idea that the earth itself is a living being. And in some ways, it symbolizes a tree. And by that I mean that the living part of the earth is a very thin outer layer, much like a tree that has a thin outer living layer in leaves and bark and roots. So in very real way, Gaia and trees are a mirror image of each other. And as we come down to earth, here's part of British Columbia someplace, and we focus in on trees, we begin to get a closer look. And this just simply says that in British Columbia we have a lot of different kinds of trees depending where we are. Each one of those colors represents a different forest zone, the green ones being the coast and the interior areas, the red ones being the dry forest, and the blue ones being the spruce forest. And here is what makes trees happen. There's a marvelous process called photosynthesis, and literally out of carbon dioxide and water, in the presence of light and chlorophyll, simple compounds of low energy are turned into complex compounds of high energy. That makes all life work. And the reverse of that, of course, are the processes of decomposition. But it's these little manufacturing plants, if you like, that give us all of the energy on Earth. We are very fortunate in British Columbia to have so many different kinds of forests. These are forests up in the northeast part of the province, spruce and trees, black spruce forests. And here's some aspen forests which occur in much of that same area, and of course they occur further south as well. And moving into the high elevation spruce forests, some of them which you'll have in this part of the province. And of course, the same kinds of forests in wintertime. Here are some cedar forests in this part of the world. And of course, some ponderosa pine forests in places like Cranbrook and in the Okanagan. And some Douglas fir forests with their very thick bark that they have adapted with so that they can live with a certain amount of fire. But if you recall also what one of our speakers said this morning, that even the microbes are very important in terms of making a forest work. These are what are called truffles. They are underground mushrooms that provide spores for these little beasts to eat, and they ingest them, these spores, and they together form with the roots of trees mycorrhizae, a community of organisms underneath the surface of the soil that by working together they can do more than working separately. These marvelous adaptations are a result of these communities living together and working together. And of course, here are some more forests, probably someplace on the coast. But the forests, of course, the trees, of course, in the forest are only part of it. We are very fortunate in British Columbia to have very many animals and so on which share our forests with us. The dark blue means Vancouver Island, which has a very large number of mammals living in the forest. The SW means Sweden, the EU means Europe. And then the red is for France, and then the purple is for British Columbia as a whole. So we have a very large number of mammals that use our forests. And for ourselves, compared to the rest of Canada, we have far more than our fair share of forest-dwelling animals. And this is how a forest grows through time. From a disturbed area with herbs and brush, with trees that grow well in the open light, that provide homes for certain kinds of animals that like those conditions. And then as the forest grows old and gets dead trees in it, it provides habitat for birds like woodpeckers and so on that can find a place to live in those forests. And this is another way of looking at the same information. In other words, a large number of species associated with disturbance, and then when the forest closes in, when the tree canopy closes in, not too good for many species in the yellow part. And then in the green parts on your right-hand side, animals that do well in the old growth conditions like the woodland caribou and the spotted owl. We'll go through some of the slides here to show you some of the wonderful values that we have in our forests, the beasts who share their forests with us. The elk, grizzly bear. This is in the Kootsmatine. The woodland caribou, that could be here with the international herd of woodland caribou in the Creston, northern Idaho area. The snow is very deep in the wintertime, and they have to have the lichen from the trees to feed on when the snow is very deep, when they cannot go deep into the snow to find food. You also carry in your pockets, in your coins, a picture of this animal on your 25-cent piece. And here is a flammulated owl. It lives in our dry forests. And this, of course, is the spotted owl. You can see the spots on its feathers. It has to have the old-growth forest, the multi-layered canopies, the flying squirrels that live in those forests for food. And here are some young spotted owls. And here's a shrew with something good to eat. And a mouse will find a place to live in and around a fallen tree. And a pygmy owl that will live in a snag. And a bat who will find a home in a snag that's falling apart. And a marbled murrelet. We're now finding them on the coast that have branches in these nests in the branches of the large old trees, about the size of a robin. A red squirrel, a little frog, and of course, the streams too are places in our forests that are abundant with life. Many fish, another fast-flowing stream with some fish, and of course, the forests come down to the sea. This is close to Tofino. The shorebirds that live in the intermediate area between the forest and the sea, and of course, some whales. And I don't know how they got this next picture. I'd go nuts if I saw that. They're not robots, are they? Can you believe that they're robots? Can you really believe that they're just dumb animals? I have a hard time believing that. So did the natives. who lived here a long time before us, and I think we are learning a lot from them. And I would like to read to you. It's fairly long, but I think it's worthwhile reading the whole story. I wasn't going to do it, but I think I will. This was Chief Seattle in 1855, talking to the President of the United States, President Pierce. And he says, "The great chief in Washington sends word that he wishes to buy our land. The great chief also sends us words of friendship and goodwill. This is kind of him, since we know he has little need of our friendship in return. But we will consider your offer, for we know if we do not so, the white man may come in with guns and take our land. What Chief Seattle says you can count on, as truly as our white brothers can count on the return of the seasons. My words are like the stars, they do not set. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of our land? The idea is strange to us. Yet we do not own the freshness of the air or the sparkle of the water. How can you buy them from us? We will decide in our time. Every part of this earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every clearing and every humming insect is holy in the memory and experience of my people. We know that the white man does not understand our ways. One portion of land is the same to him as the next, for he is a stranger who comes in the night and takes from the land whatever he needs. The earth is not his brother, but his enemy. And when he has conquered it, he moves on. He leaves his father's graves, and his children's birthright is forgotten. The sight of your city pains the eyes of the red man, but perhaps it is because the red man is a savage and does not understand. There is no quiet place in the white man's cities, no place to listen to the leaves of spring or the rustles of insect wings. But perhaps that's because I am a savage and do not understand. The clatter only seems to insult the ears. And what is there to life if a man cannot hear the lovely cry of the whippoorwill or the arguments of the frogs around a pond at night? The Indian prefers the soft sound of the wind, itself cleansed by the midday rain or scented by a pinyon pine. The air is precious to the red man, for all things share the same breath, the beast, the ear, the trees, and the man. The white man does not seem to notice the air he breathes. Like a man dying for many days, he is numb to the stench. If I decide to accept, and that is to accept the transfer of his land to the U.S. government he's talking about, I will make one condition. The white man must treat the beasts of this land as his brothers. I am a savage, and I do not understand in any other way. I have seen thousands of rotting buffaloes on the prairies left by the white man who shot them from a passing train. I am a savage, and I do not understand how the smoking iron horse can be more important than the buffalo than we kill only to stay alive. What is man without the beasts? If all the beasts were gone, men would die from great loneliness of spirit, for whatever happens to the beasts also happens to the man. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. Our children have seen their fathers humbled in defeat. Our warriors have felt shame, and after defeat they turn their days in idleness and contaminate their bodies with sweet food and strong drink. It matters little where we pass the rest of our days. They are not many. A few more hours, a few more winters, and none of the children of the great tribes that once lived on the earth or that roamed in small bands in the woods will remain to mourn the graves of the people once as powerful and hopeful as years. One thing we know that the white man may one day discover: our God is the same God. You may think that you own him as you wish to own our land, but you cannot. He is the body of man, and his compassion is equal to the red man and the white. The earth is precious to him, and to harm the earth is to heap contempt on its creator. The whites too shall pass, perhaps sooner than other tribes. Continue to contaminate your bed, and you will one night suffocate in your own waste. When the buffalo are all slaughtered, the wild horses all tamed, the secret corners of the forest heavy with the scent of many men, and the view of the ripe hills blotted by the talking wires, where is the thicket? Gone. Where is the eagle? Gone. And what is it to say goodbye to the swift and the hunt, the end of living and the beginning of survival? We might understand if we knew what it was the white man dreams and hopes he describes to his children on long winter nights, what visions he burns into their minds so they wish for tomorrow. But we are savages. They will wish for tomorrow. The white man's dreams are hidden from us, and because they are hidden, we will go our own way. If we agree, it will be to secure your reservation you have promised. There perhaps we may live out our brief days as we wished. When the last red man has vanished from the earth, and the memory is only the shadow of a cloud passing over the prairie, these shores and forests will still hold the spirits of my people, for they love this earth as the newborn loves its mother's heartbeat. If we sell you our land, love it as we have loved it, care for it as we have cared for it, hold in your memory the way the land is as you take it, and with all your strength, and with all your might, and with all your heart, preserve it for your children, and love it as God loves us all. One thing we know, our God is the same. The earth is precious to him. Even the white man cannot escape his common destiny.
So personally it's relevant, but I'm sure to some people it's quite meaningful. And that's just
this message,
is it scientific?
the Native people have been trying to communicate to us. This is on the lawns of the legislature at the time of Mears Island. The welcome figure that now stands on Mears Island. And here are some totems from the Queen Charlotte.
Thousands of years ago, I imagine.
And now,
so I believe it.
I'd like to take you on a poetic journey,
Hi, do you know your
reading about trees in ways that we have thought about them. Just one moment while I get some more.
Yeah, I've known it for a long time.
Do you read your horoscope in the paper?
Once in a while I do, yeah.
Has it ever been accurate?
Not that I know of. It's never...
We all know the poem, I think that I shall never see, a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. But poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree.
I don't know if there's Southern Moon. I think it's Sagittarius.
John Muir wrote, the great conservationist, it has been said that trees are imperfect men and seem to bemoan their imprisonment rooted in the ground. But they never seemed to me. I never saw a discontented tree. They grip the earth as though they liked it, and though fast-rooted, they travel as far as we do. They go wandering forth in all directions with every wind, going and coming like ourselves, traveling with us around the sun 2 million miles a day, and through space, heaven knows how far.
And what do you think about the spread of agriculture in the last 10, 20 years?
This next piece was written by a young person from Reynolds Junior High in Victoria. It's called Wisdom. I found the place where the trees sang to me. I told my friends and they laughed. Oh, sure, they said, tell us another one. Do pigs fly too? No, I told them, I'm not joking. Show us, they said. So I took them to the trees that sang. Can you hear them, I asked. They snorted and told me I had fooled them nicely. Those trees aren't singing. That's just some noise that the stupid birds are making. I told them again, come back again when you are normal again, I was told. I told my mother that I had found a place where the trees sang to me. Oh, yes, some other time, honey, I'm busy now, okay? She said, I told my father that I found a place where the trees sang to me, and I took him there. Can you hear them? Oh, he said, how nice. That's just the sound of the singing birds hidden in the trees. Of course, you know, that is not really the trees singing, don't you? And then I told my grandmother that I'd found a place where the trees sang to me. I took her there. Can you hear them, I asked. Yes, she said. And here's how trees can inspire us in terms of how they unite with our whole life experience. A tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light, that stood out in the open plain and always got its share of rain, never became a forest being, but lived and died a scrubby thing. The man that never had to toil to heaven and the common soil, who never had to win his share of sun and sky and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow in ease. The stronger wind, the tougher trees. The farther sky, the greater length. The more the storm, the more the strength. By sun and cold, by rains and snows, in tree or man, good timber grows. Where thickest stands the forest growth, we find the patriarchs of both, and they hold converse with the stars, whose broken branches show the scars of many winds and of much strife. This is the common law of life. That's Merv Wilkinson, and has a little tree farm near Victoria, and is probably the best ecologically managed forest that exists virtually anywhere. The poet also wrote, "If you can't be the pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub by the side of the rill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a bush, be a bit of the grass, doing something for somebody's sake. If you can't be a muskie, then just be a bass, the loveliest bass in the lake. We can't all be captains, some have to be crew. There's something for all of us here. There's big work and little for people to do. The task we must do is near. If you can't be the highway, then just be the trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are." Alfred Lord Tennyson wrote, "There rolls the deep where grew a tree. O earth, what changes thou hast seen, and where the long street has not been, the stillness of the central sea. The hills are shadows and they flow from form to form and nothing stand. They melt like mist, the solid lands, like clouds they shape themselves and go." St. Bernard wrote, "Trees and rocks will teach us what thou canst hear from a master." But of course, we know that in everyday life, things are not always so harmonious. And here's some little wisdom that might help us understand how we might have a better relationship with the land. Two men were fighting over a piece of land. Each claimed ownership and bolstered his claim with apparent proof. To resolve their differences, they agreed to put their case before a wise old man. The old man listened but could not come to a decision because both of them seemed to be right. Finally, he said, "Since I cannot decide to whom the land belongs, why don't we ask the land?" So the old man put his ear to the ground, and after a moment he straightened up. "Gentlemen," it says, "the land says that it belongs to neither of you. You belong to it." A poet by the name of Robert Service, a Canadian, was greatly influenced by many of these thoughts. He went up to the Yukon around 1900, wrote many poems on his experiences there, and he began to write about his marvelous experience and talked about the call of the wild. And this is how I'd like to work towards a conclusion. In writing of the call of the wild, he said, "Have you gazed on naked grandeur where there's nothing else to gaze on? Set pieces and drop scenes, curtain scenes galore. Big mountains heave to heaven where the blinding subsets blazing, black canyons where the rapids rip and roar. Have you swept the Vision Valley with the green stream streaking through it? Search the vastness for something you have lost. Have you strung your soul to silence? Then for God's sakes go and do it. Hear the challenge, learn the lesson, pay the cost. Have you wandered in the wilderness, the sagebrush desolation, the bunchgrass levels where the cattle's grazed? Have you whistled bits of ragtime at the end of all creation, Have you listened to the desert's little ways? Have you camped upon the foothills? Have you galloped o'er the ranges? Have you roamed the arid sunlands through and through? Have you chummed up through the mesa? Do you know its moods and changes? Then listen to the wild. It's calling you. Have you known the great white silence, not a snow-gemmed twig a quiver, eternal truth that shames our soothing lies? Have you broken trail on snowshoes, musked huskies up the river, dared the unknown, led the way, and clutched the prize? Have you marked the map's void spaces, mingled with the mongrel races, felt the savage strength of brute in every few, and through grim as hell the worst is, can you round it off with curses? Then hearken to the wild, it's wanting you. Have you suffered, starved, and triumphed, groveled down yet grasped at glory, grown bigger in the bigness of the whole? Have you done things just for the doing, letting babblers tell the story, seeing through the nice veneer the naked soul? Have you seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature's renders? You'll never hear it in the family pew. The simple things, the true things, the silent men who do things. Then listen to the wild. It's calling you. Have you cradled you? They have cradled you in custom. They have primed you in their preaching. They have soaked you in convention through and through. They have put you in a showcase. You're a credit to their teaching. But can't you hear the wild? It's calling you. Let us probe the silent places. Let us seek what luck betides us. Let us journey to a lonely land that I know. There's a whisper on the night wind. There's a star agleam to guide us. And the wild is calling, calling. Let us go. The poets, of course, have been able to see things that are not so obvious to many of the rest of us. They've been able to see things at many levels and to give us greater insights. And I told you at the beginning we were going to talk a little about wisdom. I think this poem that I will conclude with is very wise. It's amazing it was written in 1800. It says, when geometric diagrams and digits are no longer the keys to living things. Sounds like he's talking about computers, doesn't it? When people who go about singing or kissing, know deeper things than the great scholars. When society is returned once more to unimprisoned life and to the universe, and when light and darkness meet once more and make something entirely transparent, and people see in poems and fairy tales the true history of the world, then our entire twisted nature will turn and run when a single secret word is spoken. What is that secret word? Is it wisdom? Is it humility? Is it the call of the wild? What is it? And we return to where we began. Does anyone think this fellow's a robot? Does anyone think that he's just responding without anything beyond instinct? Is he connecting to all that there is? Is there something about his howl that is mysterious? Is there something that we should respect and revere with awe and wonder? If we can answer yes to that, does anyone want to agree with him and let out a good howl? Okay, that's all, folks.
Hello, my name is Maury Zaitlin, editor of the Nelson Daily News. We're pleased to be assisting with Shaw Cable and KBS Radio in the Care and Share Christmas Hamper Telethon December 16th in Nelson Trail and Castlegar. Remember those less fortunate at Christmas time and have your food and toy donations ready for pickup or deliver them to your local outlet. We are proud to distribute 17,000 bags that will be needed for your Christmas donations.
There are many at Christmas whose lives have not been touched by the abundance we enjoy. Show your ability to care for others less fortunate by sharing food and toys on Saturday, December 16th. If it's not convenient to drop off your food and toy donations at one of the Salvation Army Depot, feel free to call one of these numbers and a Shaw Cable service truck will come to your door and pick up your donation. Tune to Shaw Cable 10 for the Care and Share Shaw Cable KBS Christmas Hamper Telethon. Watch for local music and entertainment from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. in the Nelson area.